Today is day 208, Miracle of the Holy Fire. So I'm not Eastern Orthodox Christian, but I'm always fascinated by things in the human family that cause us to come together and cause us to have hope, and more importantly, traditions that we keep. Because even though we humans are always fighting against each other and always in conflict, we somehow survive, and we keep pushing forward. So I'm always fascinated by traditions that we've kept for thousands of years because there must be something really powerful and meaningful about them. I watched a movie the other day with my wife and son, and in that movie there were scenes from World War One, and specifically the Battle of Somme, which was, the German Empire versus the French and British empires. They had all gathered their armies together in this part of northern France where they fought this ugly, brutal trench warfare against, and it lasted for 6 months. And I mean, this battle was horrific. I mean, there was probably 3 million people, and well over 1 million of those people died or were seriously maimed in the battle. I think it's probably the worst human conflict ever recorded. And this is the first time that we actually had still shot camera or even video images, or not really video, but they had technology back then to actually capture some of what was going on. So this is the first time that we actually recorded our total brutality against each other. What's fascinating to me is these were three largely Christian civilizations. France, British, and Germany all were, Christian. So here they are fighting against each other, just like, and in the most brutal way, with chemical warfare and bombs that were designed to maim and harm each other. It was just disgusting. So I was thinking about that, and then I made the mistake of looking at the news, and there was, a story about the Jerusalem Palestine conflict where the IDF is fighting against Hamas. And then there was a news story about there's a couple civil wars going on in the world. I don't know if you know that. There's one in North Africa, and there's another one in another province near in the east. So there's all these and that doesn't account for the war in Ukraine. And then you start looking at all the different conflicts and wars going on, and they're everywhere. I mean, we're nowhere closer to peace in the human family now than we were in World War One. So I was getting a little discouraged by that. I'm like, oh man, we're never gonna. But then, like this glimmer of hope. I saw an article I saw something pop up on the miracle of the Holy Fire. And I don't know if you know what this is, but I've looked into it before because I thought it was fascinating. But in the Eastern Orthodox, so you might remember from history class that the Holy Roman Church and the Christian Orthodox Church had a schism. And it was largely over the battle of control over the church. And so there was the Roman contingent, which became the Roman Catholic Church, and the Constantinople Church, which became what we now know as the Eastern Orthodox Church. Greek Orthodox, the Eastern Orthodox, so all the Orthodox Church went that direction. So you really had two churches claiming Catholicism. Now, Catholicism is really just a fancy way of saying the one that's true. The one that has maintained the correct, true line of faith. So the early Christian church had this thing called the Nicene Creed. And basically, both churches are claiming that they're the ones that have kept that creed better than the other one. I'm not going to get into the battle between those two, but that's where the Eastern Orthodox Church came from. So then, ever since then, one of the big differences between the two churches is when does Easter happen? So obviously we in the West know when Easter is. It's on our calendars and we know how that's tracked. But in the Eastern Orthodox Church, Easter changes all the time. And it changes based on the Jewish Passover, but it really changes based on the spring equinox. So it has to be the Sunday after the spring equinox. Now, it is possible that Easter for the West and Easter for the Eastern Orthodox can land in the same time frame. So that last happened in 2017. You might remember there was a bit of media on this because it hadn't happened for a while where Easter was on the same day for the whole world. So anyway, let's get back to the miracle of the Holy Fire. So the Eastern Orthodox Church is not as organized as the Holy Roman Catholic Church, Roman Church. The Catholic Church has, bishops and cardinals, and it's got a uniform theocracy, right? Whereas the Orthodox Church is much looser. They have kind of like representatives from each of the church will come and meet together, and they'll kind of generally talk and debate about stuff and agree. I mean, they're called councils. But there is a patriarch in Constantinople. And that patriarch is sort of seen as the head. It's nowhere near the status of pope, but it is kind of seen as a very important religious figure. Well, anyway, what happens is every year when it gets close to Easter, the patriarch visits Jerusalem. And this pilgrimage is joined with Christians from all over. From all the major Orthodox churches, they will send pilgrims to Jerusalem. So what happens is on Saturday, Holy Saturday, patriarch visits the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. And inside that church is another church, and there's a smaller church which is actually a church of the resurrection, and that church is supposedly built on top of the place that Jesus Christ was buried in a tomb, the tomb of Arimathea. So he's buried in that tomb, and this is where he was resurrected. This is the claim. So that church is over top of that. So every Holy Saturday, the patriarch visits that church, and what happens, and this is rather amazing, the local authorities that control Jerusalem, whoever it happens to be, and this, by the way, this has been going on now for 1,200 years or more, since 1100 AD. This has been going on at least. So Jerusalem's been in the control of the Romans. It's been in control of the Turks. It's been in control by the Israelis. It's been in control of various people throughout the world. The British. I mean, it's been everybody's battled over Jerusalem. Well, what happens is the local authorities, whoever's in control of Jerusalem, visits the church, and they check out the tomb to make sure that it is indeed empty, that there's no sources of fire in there, and that it's clean. And then they seal the door. And they've always cooperated with it. This has been a tradition that's been going on for forever. Well, the patriarch shows up, and he opens the seal on the door and goes in, and he's carrying with him 33 candles representing each of the major events of Christ's life. And he goes inside the tomb, and he waits. Actually, I think what he does is he says a prayer, and the prayer's been passed down from patriarch to patriarch. I'm not sure if we know the prayer or not. I've never looked that up. But it gets passed down from patriarch to patriarch. So every patriarch knows the prayer. And once they're done with the prayer, usually right after they're done saying it, although I've heard that it hasn't always happened, suddenly, at the tomb where Christ supposedly was laid down when he was dead, a blue flame emits miraculously from heaven. And that flame gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And then people can actually see it from outside. So bright. The patriarch will then start lighting the candles. And after all the candles are lit, he'll come outside, he'll hold up a couple of the candles, and everybody will cheer, and bells will start ringing, and then everybody starts to light their candles and their lanterns. And then everybody takes that fire and takes it back to their churches or even to their homes and lights their candles at home, spreading the light of the holy flame. I've actually seen this on airplanes. People have these special lanterns that carry the holy flame that you can seal up and carry with you. And I think the major airlines actually permit the carrying of the holy flame. I mean, this is major cooperation for an airline to allow a gas-powered, oil-powered lantern on the plane. But I've seen it. I've seen it once a long time ago at LAX. I saw somebody carrying the lantern of the holy flame. So anyway, so they carry the flame all throughout the world. Now, there are some, cynics out there who say that really what's going on is one of the attendees to the patriarch has a lighter in their pocket, and that's actually the holy flame. And some people, very cynical people, will talk about how this is a meaningless, silly exercise. But thousands of people make the pilgrimage every year to out of this. What I think is more miraculous than the actual flame, I think what's more miraculous is the fact that, Israeli police always try to reduce the size of. They always say it's too big. You can't have this many people here. We're limiting it this year. During COVID, they really tried to limit it as well. And then this year they said, well, there's too much of a terrorist threat going on, so we can't let you can only limit it to 1,000 people. Well, that didn't work out because tens of thousands of people showed. But every year, for just a moment, these people put their differences aside and they light this holy flame and they participate in this ceremony. And to me, that was the real miracle, right? The miracle that we can still hold on to tradition. We can still hold on to what makes us human. We can still take a pause and celebrate our lives and who we are. And when everybody leaves that event, they always say, you can watch it online, go on YouTube and watch the recordings from the event. Everybody's very happy and hopeful about humanity, and they want to spread peace throughout the world. And I just think, wow, that's the real miracle, right? And of course, tomorrow we'll go back to killing each other and fighting. And I think, anyway, watching that this morning gave me a little bit of hope that maybe the human family can get along.